they cannot ignore us, the people, including their own children.
We're constantly aware of their betrayal of our planet.
The pop and energy of the young, powerful voices fighting for climate change comes to life in the streets of Glasgow. More than 10,000 school kids joined the protest against climate change in today's Top 5. Welcome to Know This COP26 edition. I'm Alejandro Alba in Glasgow, where it's been a week, but the youth empowerment keeps the spirit alive. Let's count down and get to the biggest stories you need to know. Starting at number 5, climate activist Archana Soreng has a big voice in the fight against climate change. And at COP26, she's using it to focus on indigenous rights.
I feel the indigenous issues is way behind. Recognizing the contribution of indigenous people in climate action discourse is something which I see is missing, and that's why I feel it's really important to advocate for that.
Soreng, who was born and raised in India, is one of the youngest members ever on the UN's Youth Advisory Group. She belongs to the Kadia tribe in Odisha, and since the very start, she's had her work cut out for her.
You cannot have climate justice if you are not taking into consideration the different stakeholders, the different communities, and the communities like mine.
Soreng says indigenous people face the worst of environmental destruction due to climate change, which is why they need a stronger voice in the fight.
Indigenous people should be leaders of climate action, not victims of climate policies.
At number 4, an army of worried parents march on Glasgow with a plea to end air pollution. In what might be the largest mobilization of parents on any issue ever, they are demanding an end to all fossil fuel funding. Before the march, a delegation of mothers from several nations delivered a letter to COP26 President Alok Sharma, pleading for world leaders to protect children by limiting air pollution. Parents we met during COP26 know how crucial it is to act now.
When my children are my age, they will be living in a very different place. It means a lot to me to try and change this now for them.
The World Health Organization says air pollution poses one of the biggest threats to human health and causes 7 million premature deaths each year.
We need to end fossil fuel extraction.
We gotta keep our forests as they are.
Number 3, a powerful show of force in the streets of Glasgow as thousands of young climate crusaders march in a landmark Fridays for Future strike. Their presence is powerful. Their messages are bold, pumping new energy into the COP26 summit. Despite the flurry of commitments at COP26 this week, one of the messages at the Fridays for Future March is that the COP summits just aren't working. On the sidelines, I caught up with Elena Guilinga, a voice for indigenous communities in the Ecuadorian Amazon.
The Amazon is so important, and people don't really know what is going on. Then we have the other part of the Amazon where oil and mining is a huge problem.
19-year-old Jerome Foster of New York is the youngest member to ever serve on the White House Environmental Justice Advisory Council. He is in Glasgow to make sure young voices are taken seriously.
There's been so much talk about including young people, but it's only been in superficial conversations and in pretty speeches, but it hasn't been at the negotiation table where action needs to be really taken.
At number 2, one of the world's most influential earth scientists says that Glasgow is the moment to show the world that we're serious. Rockstrom is the director of the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research. He says he understands well the frustration he is seeing at COP26.
As a young person today, how can you have an adult generation on watch on Earth today that have all the evidence of the crisis and have the solutions, and that we're not delivering?
Rockstrom believes there is a chance of landing the 1.5 Celsius limit is possible, avoiding what he calls a disaster path as the planet continues to get hotter. And for those activists who feel they're not being heard, he says they may be selling themselves short.
Their voice has been so powerful and is so present and is hitting so hard that I can assure them that nobody can today, address climate policy without, being very attentive to the voice of the youth.
And at number 1, the face of the youth climate change movement, Greta Thunberg, is beyond not impressed with COP26, branding it as a PR event.
Our leaders are giving beautiful speeches and announcing fancy commitments and targets, while behind the curtains, the governments of the global north countries are still refusing to take any drastic climate action.
Her headline speech to protesters came after Thunberg marched with demonstrators throughout the day. Thunberg's remarks came after several other advocates played up the accomplishments being made in Glasgow. But many, like Thunberg, say the radical commitments needed to reverse global warming are just not there.
The question we must now ask ourselves is, what is it that we are fighting for? Are we fighting to save ourselves and the living planet? Or are we fighting to maintain business as usual?
In the end, Thunberg praised the massive show of support stretched out before her in Glasgow.
Our leaders are not leading. This is what leadership looks like.
Thunberg will also attend another massive protest on Saturday.
And one last thing for world leaders to chew on at COP26. A polar bear's head with a side of crispy cold nuggets and a tasty glass of rising sea levels. This is what activists served up for world leaders in a stunt to dramatize the consequences of global warming.
That's today's top news. What was the biggest for you? Tell me in the comments below. And make sure to follow Now This Earth for more COP26 news. We'll see you right back here tomorrow for more news you need to know.